So the first one was this kind of sense of neuroplasticity and changing that through, heart coherence and other measures. So then I kind of really, one of the first things that I learned that really struck me was all the literature about actually how meditation can literally change your brain, increasing density and activity in major areas of the brain. And I'll give you an example of this. For example, this famous study by Sarah Lazar, who is at Harvard, found differences in brain volume after just 8 weeks of 5 different regions of the brain in 2 groups. So this was, so these were non-meditators who started meditating. It was 20 to 30 minutes a day. And she measured 5 different changes in 5 different regions of the brain just from that 20 to 30 minutes a day. It really showed incredible, scientifically backed studies showing the incredible power of even just 20 or 30 minutes a day of meditation. And then other studies have found, and I'm not going to go into, this isn't a research paper, so I'm not going to go into all the science behind this, but I have links to these in the paper, in that Medium article I wrote. For example, the emotional brain stress center, the amygdala, through meditation gets smaller. The neocortex, the sort of whole top center of your brain, gets thicker and denser. So you're actually getting better brain matter. Thicker and denser hippocampus. This is your learning and memory center through meditation. Strengthened prefrontal cortex. So that's your conductor. If we think of your brain being an orchestra, that's your conductor. And it has a lot to do with emotional regulation, and meditation strengthens that. And then lastly, this is really important. So the cingulate cortex in the back of your brain, where it's often called the default mode network, is the center of your brain for mind wandering and self-referential thinking. And so this is really the seat of your monkey mind, if you like that. And you actually start to deactivate that center when you learn to meditate, which to me, that was actually one of the first things that I started to notice when I really was doing a lot of regular meditation, was all those annoying monkey mind thoughts. I was just having less of them. I just wasn't thinking about the past, not because I was trying, not because I was doing anything other than meditating. They just started happening less. It was really phenomenal. And so reinforcing, like, oh, this is really helping, So, and I admittedly had a very busy, understand that I came from, being a very analytical, science-driven person with kind of constant thinking all the time, and was really able to shut that off and then just decide to think, essentially. So thoughts don't just come up like randomly. It was huge for me, this experience of deactivating the default mode network. And so a lot of, I think it's important to just talk about a little bit about what meditation is. So meditation to me, I mean, we can go down a big rabbit hole on that, full into the path to awakening and enlightenment, which I very much am on that path myself. But I don't think, I think that that's not important to get started, and really understanding that just building stable attention or concentration, and then this ability to be mindfully aware in the present moment, are kind of 2 of the key goals, especially in the beginning. And I really highly recommend a book called Raising Our Vibration. This was a group that I ended up meeting through a Facebook connection last April. And they have a course, a 10-week meditation course. There's actually one that starts in 2 weeks. I highly recommend it. So we can put some link to that, but it's raisingourvibration.net. So if you want some support to get started in meditation regularly, I really recommend this course and the book that goes with it. And the teachers, Kevin Scheninger and Stephen Altair, are fabulous teachers who have enormous background in meditation. I think combined 90 years of experience in meditation. So they're really knowledgeable. Some more about kind of what meditation can do. So one of the things that it really starts to do, when I talked about brain waves, is shifting into a more alpha brainwave state or a more relaxed, open state. And you know, some, like I said, incredible science has been done on this. But for example, they've found improvement in mood and reduction in tension and anxiety, and clearer thinking, memory, and heightened creativity. And you can see, like, you know, those are the result of having a smaller amygdala, for example, or having a strengthened prefrontal cortex. Also, you are activating some key hormones in your body, like serotonin and melatonin, that regulate, you know, really important physiological systems in your body that relate to mood and calmness. DMT is actually the active molecule in ayahuasca, and interestingly enough, through meditation, you actually release natural small amounts of that hormone through meditation. So one of the things that I really, as a scientist, started to do was to use the Muse headset to track my own brainwaves, because I wanted to, well, at first I just was using it as a tool for meditation. And so I did some neurofeedback work, and I got this Muse device, and there's an app that you can put it on and meditate and get these graphs. So what you're looking at here is a kind of typical, one of my typical graphs from the region, the temporal region behind my head. So you can see here in blue are the alpha brain waves, here are the theta brain waves, delta and beta in green, and gamma in orange. And so what I started to do was track my meditations and see how I was changing my brain during the meditation. And I started to notice some really interesting things. One was that the brainwaves started to get more coherent, which is a sign of a, you know, brain that is functioning better, that the brainwaves are more coherent. This is another one. This is from the frontal lobes, and you can see the pretty high coherence here, which it did not look like that in the beginning, I promise you. And then this decreased activity. So this is my prefrontal cortex kind of, you know, calming down and going from this high thinking brain to a more relaxed brain with less activity. And then I did something that was pretty interesting. I used my science background to use a program called R to take all this data that I'd been collecting, because I did all these meditations and I was collecting data, and I wrote a program just to track all these different brainwaves over time to see. What I really wanted to know was I getting more theta, which is one of the key brainwaves you want in meditation, and alpha? Was I getting more of that in my meditations? And indeed I did. Over 6 month time, I saw that my overall levels of theta and alpha increased dramatically. I think this decrease in delta is actually a function of quieting my mind, settling down my body, because delta is very sensitive to movement. And I won't go into beta and gamma. They're a little more complex. So I don't really want to spend some time on that, but suffice it to say, to me, it was really interesting and very rewarding to see that through these practices, I was able to increase alpha and theta, for example, in my meditations. So direct evidence. I felt like my brain was changing, and I had evidence that my brain was changing.